right, good morning and good afternoon to everybody. I'm William Lee, Business Development Director here at Glue Up. We're so happy to have all of you joining us today for our first webinar of the year called Outlook 2021, Preparing Your Association for the New Year. So today you'll hear from top association leaders across APAC as they explore and provide their insights on a few key elements like strategic planning for the future, the new normal, prospects for 2021, and finally, how to transition your organization in preparation for the post-COVID era. Just a bit of housekeeping to remind everyone, please feel free to post your questions or comments during the panel discussion using the event room chat box on the right-hand side of your browser, and we'll do our best to address them after the discussion. All right, let's go ahead and meet our panel of distinguished guests. First, we have Jada Seat, President at International Coaching Federation, Singapore chapter. Next is Nick Coburn, Executive Director of Association Executive Services. Then we have Saharsh Damani, CEO of Federation of Automobile Dealers Associations. Finally, we have Marcel Uwals, Director, Associations and Marketing of MCI Group. And last but not least, I would like to introduce our moderator for this discussion, Eric Schmidt, CEO and co-founder of Glue Up. Over to you, Eric.
Great, thank you, William, and welcome everybody. It is now a little bit past the middle of January here, and certainly the year's gotten started. Hopefully everybody's annual plans are in place, and we will see how we can help everybody flush out some of the challenges, but also the opportunities that lay ahead this year. So we have 4 distinguished panelists. We have a lot of people from around Asia Pacific. So we have really a diverse crowd joining us today. As William mentioned, feel free to pass over the questions. That is something that we will obviously look forward to interacting with everybody on, but also making sure that the panel is interactive, but also as informational as we can get it. So if we can, I'm going to ask our panelists just to quickly introduce themselves. Our full bios for all the panelists are available in the bottom of your screen if you want to get their full bio. But I will ask each of them, starting with Nick, just to give a quick summary of a little bit of their background in the association world. And also, as part of that, to add in 2 trends that they saw in 2020. So we'll get the discussion started this way with you, Nick. Welcome.
Yes, thank you, Eric, and thank everyone for Glue Up for inviting me here today. My name's Nick Coburn. I'm Executive Director of Association Executive Services here in sunny Melbourne, Victoria. And I'd like to say that it's pretty good here in Australia at the moment because we only have about 5 active COVID-19 cases. Now, we don't know whether that's going to continue, but just a bit of a background about myself. I've been an association CEO for about 20 years, up to 2010, and I had a lot of experience across a lot of associations, and that's given me the opportunity to sort of understand what it's like to work in an association dealing with the daily issues. In 2010, I set up Association Executive Services, and that's an organisation that provides consulting and training and secretariat services to predominantly the Australian market. We provide a lot of networking and support to CEOs of associations. So the 2 things I think that we've seen in the pandemic, Eric, is certainly a need for associations to adapt very quickly. And the other thing I saw was the acceleration of technology, learning how something like Zoom works and others. So that's thank you very much, Eric. I hope that helps.
Absolutely. Thanks for getting us started. Let's go over to Saharsh over in India. Welcome.
Hi, Eric. Good morning and good afternoon to everyone who are viewing this webinar. And thank you, GlowUp, for inviting me for this session. FAD, if I give a brief introduction about myself, I am Saharsh Damani. I am the CEO at Federation of Automobile Dealers Associations. We call it FADA. We are a 56-year-old organization in India representing the automobile dealers fraternity. We are the only apex body which is on a pan-India basis. What happened in 2020 was something which was very unprecedented, and I'm sure in the last 100 years, no one would have seen such kind of, or would have gone through such kind of a situation. Similarly, in India, we had a very technological problem which we were facing with, or if I have to say, we were upgrading to from, if you know, the Euro 4 to Euro 6 norms. We similarly in India have Bharat Stage 4 to Bharat Stage 6 emission norms, which was happening in the month of March and April. And that's when the country went into lockdown, sometimes around 25th of February onwards. So dealers were left with a good amount of vehicles, maybe passenger cars, two-wheelers, commercial vehicles, or tractors. And we had to rise up to the challenge. There was no option left with us other than going to the Supreme Court of India, which is the highest court of law. And we had to save our dealers from incurring such a huge loss. If they would have not sold by the deadline of 31st March, the entire vehicles which they were carrying would go into scrap. And that was into around 4,500 crore rupees in Indian terms. So we had to raise up to this challenge, and we had to get up really very fast. So this was one issue which we kept on dealing with until August and September 2020, when we got the final order in our favor from the court, and that brought a huge relief to the entire dealership fraternity in India. The other challenge, we had to get accustomed to this new normal, was meeting in a different environment where physical was the norm of the day, and we used to do a lot of travel, maybe air travel or rail travel. The entire travel stopped, and it was left to a mere 14-inch screen, and everyone had to get adopted. We had to also realign our balance sheets and be more financially prudent in terms of the expenditures. And therefore, we had to make our dealership community understand the way they can cut extra flab or the extra fat, and they can survive and keep their nose above water. So these are the two challenges which we think were one of the best learnings in the entire life. Yeah.
Great. Jada, welcome.
Hi, Eric. Hi, everyone that's tuning in right now. So I think, okay, so let me introduce myself first. I'm Jada, so I'm currently sitting as president of ICF, International Coaching Federation, Singapore chapter. For those who might not be familiar, ICF, we are the world's largest organization of professionally trained coaches, and we have around 40,000+ members around the world. So our purpose really is to advance the coaching profession around the world. I think we can all agree that 2020 have been a really challenging year. And I have to add on, because of the challenge it brought, it also became a very exciting year of growth for the Singapore chapter here. Two trends, right? You're asking about what to expect in 2021. I think if we were to say 2020 was about adapting, transiting offerings
from 2020.
Trends from 2020.
Yeah.
Right. So I think 2020, we were transiting all our offerings offline to online. I think now members will really be expecting more from the things that we are offering online. So we really have to look at what more can we give to them when everyone is cooped at home, right? So offerings to expect, creating experiences online. I think the other thing is, while technology definitely is a huge trend, something for us to look into is how do we continue having that human touch through technology? Because after all, at the heart of all membership and association, right, is about that connection, that sense of community. So we need to make sure that while technology is important, how do we emphasize community and connection through it. Thank you.
Great. And finally, Marcel, welcome.
Welcome, Eric, and thank you very much for having me back here. Basically, I am the head of the association management for MCI. So we look after here in our office about 10 association clients in various capacities. Just to keep it short, the main trends that I saw was, first of all, everybody started with a self-assessment in the year. What is their relevance? How can they survive looking forward? But the most important trend that I saw was that associations started representing their industry with government because they needed to protect their industries. It's like what we hear with Saharsh, you know, you go and represent your industry for support, for prioritizing, for funding in order to make sure that your pillar can sustain the crisis of 2020 and beyond.
Absolutely. And Marcel, if you were to sort of look at 2020, what were some of the things that you take away from it? What did you learn that, you know, is helping you as you come into 2021 here?
That most of the people don't understand the necessary of change or how far they need to go in change. And I think that the realization between a board is that half of the board still thinks that, well, at some point we go back to our normal routine. And as we're talking on this subject today, I think that is the biggest takeaway I sort of have from the year is that most people don't understand the impact of what we're having here, and we're not really clear of how the future will be and when we get to a new normal status. So whatever there is in between is a long transition process. And I think that most of us are not yet prepared for that transition process at this stage.
Very interesting. Sahar, as you look at yourself, and obviously as an executive of a major association there in India going through that crisis, what do you take away from it? What, you know, were the learning values for you in that process as a, you know, key executive in those decisions that needed to be made?
So the biggest learning which I had in last 12 months was that you have to be on your toes every time, because you are sitting somewhere else. The problem is in some other part of the country and you can't travel. How do you deal with it? How do you manage it? How do you solve the issues? In fact, the Supreme Court case which I talked about, it was entirely during the lockdown period. And for the first time, the entire arguments and the council meetings was happening online. So sitting in Delhi, thankfully the court was also in Delhi, but then the best lawyers may not be in Delhi at that point of time because of lockdown. So how do you connect with them? How do you make them understand your issues? So you have to be very thorough in your subject and have to explain in such a manner that you don't need physical presence. That is one. Second is you need to do a lot of training with your members, because this is something for the first time, which is they are also experiencing apart from you. So you have to learn first and then make others learn. So that's the biggest challenge which we had. And thankfully, somehow we could get it correct. Absolutely, it cannot be 100%, but then it's always a learning phase. And we kept on evolving and kept on making changes so that the hiccups which we face continue to, you know, decrease over a period of time. So these are the two things which was of learning for me.
And Nick, obviously Australia is a little bit different than many of the other economies, certainly around the Asia Pacific region. And obviously, you know, given the situation where you know the virus is now, things are, you know, certainly much better than we were at the beginning, and much faster than many other countries, thankfully. As you look sort of through that, what are some of the, you know, things that, as you look at associations, ones who acted quickly, what do you really think brought those organizations forward and really are going to help propel those organizations this year?
Well, I think, thanks, Eric. I think I've pulled out 4 points that I've thought about this because I feel like I was a social worker to some of the CEOs I was dealing with because they were in all areas of difficulty in some respects, financially, trying to communicate with their members about changing policies around government policies, which was very frustrating because different government departments would provide different messages. So I think they've done a really great job just being there. But the 4 things I think really will make a difference is they have to remember to stay relevant with their members. They have to be able to build those relationships with stakeholders and government. So you're at the forefront of the change. We aren't out of this yet. There's going to be a lot of issues around, for example, the vaccines about to be rolled out in about another month. And there were examples where one association said, no, we should stop the vaccine or because we have an issue. That really hit that was a real issue for that association and the country because they'd made that statement. The second one would be being able to manage change. And unfortunately, we've sort of have a lot of associations have been around for a long time and it's been a traditional old way of doing things. And the challenge we have, of course, we've got volunteers are on the board. So being change agents to be able to look at what to do next to help add value to their members, the understanding of using strategic planning as a tool to help them, that is something that's, I think, strong in some very successful organisations, but not in the others. A couple of other things is ensuring the management systems that they use and develop procedures to deliver the service to their members. And that's something that, again, is missing in some respects. It's reliant on people. Oh, we know how to do it, but it's in someone's head. So having to be able to develop those documentations. And I think the first thing, and of course, we can all talk about technology later, but I think the key thing that's coming through is about developing policies, because policies are going to hit us very quickly. It's all about policies about data collection, security. That's a big issue for a lot of associations at the moment, and privacy, particularly with that. And I think the final policy is around the disciplinary process of their members, because in some cases in the pandemic, we saw some members actually acting improperly. Thanks, Eric.
Very interesting. And Jada, so looking, we've now transitioned into a new year. How do you think the economy will impact your organization's outlook this year?
I think, for ICF Singapore over here, our revenues comes mainly from membership fees, right? So if you're talking about economy-wise, interestingly, for the coaching profession, the demand for coaching has increased tremendously. Like just looking at last year, our membership grew by a total of 40%, which is a huge leap, considering like the state of the world, right? So in terms of the demand for joining our association, I don't see the economy having a huge impact for the coaching profession. In fact, on the other hand, I think the need for coaching has increased. So there's going to be more members joining us. So the thing over here for us that we need to focus on is how do we continue to make sure that the offerings we are giving out to the members stay relevant, stays member-centric.
Yeah, that's amazing. 40% growth. Congratulations. Many organizations would be drooling over those numbers these days. So Harth, as you look at India and certainly lockdown and everything else that has happened over the last year, as you look at the economy of India now, what are you sort of predicting for your members, and how are they going to react based on the information that you guys have gathered, and how is the organization going to shift as it starts to think about 2021 economically?
So the good thing is that on 16th of January, the world's biggest vaccination program has been rolled out in India, and people have already started getting vaccinated. It's the frontline health soldiers who are being vaccinated first. Then in phase 2, it will be elderly people who are above 60 years of age. then followed by anyone who is above 12 and up to an age of 60. So it's a long drawn process, but thankfully it has already started. And we have two vaccine companies, two pharma companies who are rolling out these vaccines in the country. So that's a good step to begin with. We have begun 2021 on a good note. If all things go as per plan, and if there are no major side effects, then I think the worst is already behind us now. And this vaccine will take care of the COVID, and then the second streak and the third streak, which have just come out in the UK and Japan. So things are opening up, and we now see that an yearly growth should start coming from the month of April onwards, and by the next festive season, which is in the month of September and October, things should again come back at at a healthy pre-COVID level. So if that happens, then our members are in good shape, because auto is the barometer of India's economy. If they say if passenger vehicles are doing good, which means if the cars are doing good, then urban market is doing good. If tractors and two-wheelers are doing good, it's the rural market which is picking up. And if a commercial vehicle is doing good, which means the infrastructure segment is again coming up. So all these make the Indian auto sector the barometer of India's economy. And I think from April onwards, we'll start seeing yearly growth, but then on a lower base of last year, because 2020 was a flat year. In terms of real growth, we think if we cross 18, 19 numbers, that's when the real growth will start coming back, and that's what will pull India's GDP upwards. So if that happens, members flourish, and if members do good, FADA does good. So what we have started doing is, in automobile, every country brings out their monthly registered retail numbers, but India was very different. In India, we only used to get wholesale numbers, which are basically dispatched from factories to dealerships. We never had the concept of retail numbers being released. Since last 2 years, we at FADA have started releasing this number. And this brings in a lot of insight for the members, for the stakeholders, for the banking system, for the insurance providers, and all the other stakeholders, that how the country and in terms of auto sales are doing, specifically in the country at the grassroots level, at the retail level. So we do a lot of surveys. We do survey on a monthly basis to take into account how the month has been, and this is released every month to the dealers with the retail numbers. So it gives them a sense of how they performed in the current month and how the next month will look to be. So that's the long and short of how things are in India.
Great. Marcel, as you look across Southeast Asia, which you cover, where are you trying to concentrate more of your efforts as economies try to come back? And obviously, many of them were in lockdown for an extended period of time, obviously Malaysia being the most recent. How are you looking at the region from your viewpoint?
I don't think we're looking at region specific because that's really depends on where the growth comes from and where the activities in the regionally are about the same and disrupted by the fact that there is no travel, there's no person-to-person activity. So we really focus on the reorganization as much as we can within that in order to restructure it. So once they come out, they are future-proof in a way.
MCI obviously does a large portion of its business is on the event side of things. How are you guys planning for 2021? What's going on there?
I think that the key question here is what is necessary to transition. So, for years and years, we've talked about what we call O2O, which is online to offline to online, meaning from the cyber world engagement to the event itself, and then keeping the event going back to the online world, i.e. creating a 365 community. And what we see now is we've all learned very quickly, we finally adapted to the online world in a way, but we aren't future ready. We still see that we don't have the engagement right for our memberships to really move back from the online to offline to online. We don't have that engagement because we don't know the trends yet of how people are going to engage, but we do foresee that live events will be more and more consolidated, so you'll get less events. So more will be moved towards the online platforms as we've become accustomed to it very quickly. And that's the biggest restructure we're trying to do, is how to implement this technology in order to make it seamless and also make it habitual for the memberships.
So what events do you think are going to stay online versus those that will eventually shift back in person?
A lot of the regional events or duplicate events that we used to organize in specific markets are going to disappear. We've all realized that it's too expensive in today's age to organize 5 events on the same topic. So it's going to be 1 or 2 events, and then you want to join in on a hybrid platform or fly in. But it's less of the same.
Interesting. Nick, what are your thoughts on this topic?
Yes, the trend has been really one about adjusting. When COVID-19 hit, everyone was pushing their events to the end of 2020, and of course, that wasn't going to be working, so they're pushing it to the end of 2021. And there's also this worry about if they plan for something, we will have another outbreak. We had it in December, we had an outbreak, and then the premiers closed the borders, so you couldn't move from one state to the other. But the issue, I think, is about engagement, about connecting, and a lot of people I know are sick of the virtual world. They really want to get back. So I think there will be smaller events. They'll be managed well. I mean, we're looking at running small CEO breakfasts, and that's sort of safe for us. And I think everyone's keen to get back. The hybrid world will continue. I think the positive thing around all this is that a lot of people weren't technically savvy around connecting with people in Zoom meetings and things. And I think this is a great opportunity to reach out, and particularly from Australia out to Southeast Asia, to be able to invite people to events. There won't be travel because we know Australia's closed its borders and will be like this for up to 2022. So it'll close its borders, and we're looking at running medium-sized events around Australia, and government have provided some funding, $50 million funding for events to be run. So we will see the hybrid event, but I see the positive opportunity here with the technology to reach out to people that we wouldn't have been engaging with at a local level. Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, Jada. Is you sort of, obviously coaches are know people and know obviously how to create interactions. How are you guys thinking about that process of events coming back in Singapore, and certainly you guys back to organizing some of the in-person trainings or whatever is obviously important for your members?
I just find it very interesting to hear how Nick, Sahaj, and Masa are talking about events, because I think the coaches are loving the online world. I mean, we are really thriving on Zoom and having the opportunity to reach out to more people via Zoom and being online, right? Because we started to manage to network with more clients and regional members around the region. So I think in terms of being online, it has brought us a lot of opportunities. Now, the way we see moving into 2021, there is no hard and fast rule of whether are we going to stay 100% online, or what's the percentage of going offline to an in-person event. I think it's really all dependent on the COVID situation in Singapore. So the way we are going ahead into this year, we are still going ahead with all our plans. We are only going to make sure that we stay nimble to adjust according to the situation. So events going forward is still going to be very much online at the moment.
Okay, that's interesting. And Sahar, obviously the vaccine's rolling out. How are you guys thinking about events for your members and bringing, sort of that engagement back in person?
So as of now, we are keeping our virtual events very short and crisp, not more than 60 to 90 minutes, because eye span, it gets lost with the dealer principals. They don't stick around for a longer period of time. And now what we are doing is we are picking up very interesting and upcoming trends and the laws and regulations which are coming up in the country. We are educating our members on those lines, so that they are not caught off guard, and they know what needs to be done. So very specific topic specific webinars are being organized at this point of time, and that's where we are limiting our events. But once things start opening up, we'll again start our physical events, because India is in total 36 states and union territories, and we plan and aim to do at least 12 to 14 events in a year. So that's how we cover each and every state of the country. So once things start opening up, we'll go back to the physical events which we used to do 2 years back. But then for these specific topics which are very crisp, we'll also do the webinar sessions with our members, because this way we can cater to a larger audience, which may not be possible in a physical event. So a mix of both will happen. And on the sidelines, we have also started FADA Academy, where we are taking up courses and making someone who is aspiring to be a dealer for automotive industry. What are the nuances of this industry? What are the things which he needs to learn? What are the things he needs to manage on a day-to-day basis? So these curriculums have started now, and obviously these are online events at this point of time. But when things start up, we'll have 1 or 2 days physical classroom sessions also for them. So what happens is we keep our members engaged on one side. On the other hand, it keeps getting FADA its revenue share also, because that's also one of the important aspects which we have to keep in mind to keep ourselves going. So these are the things which we are doing at this point of time, and hopefully it will be a mix of 50-50 in when things are back to normal.
That's great. Yep, absolutely. Marcel, in talking about, let's talk about engagement, member engagement. Obviously, that term and what people understand has shifted completely from what, a year ago people understood that meant and what their goals were alongside of that. As you look at the organizations you're looking with, how have they shifted their mind about really member engagement going into 2021? And what are some of those priorities to really bring the organization together?
I think the best way to express that is to look at how we're trying to transform the traditional committees. So traditional committees are structured through top-down senior people that set direction and has a portfolio of activities, and we're really trying to diverse that to an environment where members find value in creating content. So rather than having a committee that is focused on something, we build project groups, and the project groups nowadays are much more diverse, and that allows us to bring in the younger members and provide a wider mix, very often also with outside members, to get a larger insight into the projects that they're trying to resolve, right? So, I mean, I was reading the other day a document and from MCI, and they say basically what we're looking for is a self-driven, project-specific, technology-enabled environment. And I think that sums it up very nicely, where people want to engage, they want to choose when they want to engage and how they want to engage. They want to focus on a particular area, not on the whole thing. I don't want to volunteer for a committee, but I do want to be active in solving problem X, Y, or Z. And the technology platform is necessary with everything today. So that kind of sums it up. And that transition in an organization is very important, because suddenly as an organization, we're managing project groups. And that is a lot more than supporting a committee that has a role, a chairman that has a KPI or something. So it's far more interactive and far more creative. And that helps the entire membership to come together and find more value, particularly in the time that there is no face-to-face engagement.
Yeah, I mean, everything has completely shifted, and certainly there's some, obviously some very key nuggets in what you just said. So hopefully everybody was taking notes on that one. Nick, anything that you're seeing in terms of trends when it comes to member engagement or suggestions that you have, as people sort of rethink the way that, organizations should be engaging with their members in this sort of new environment?
Yeah, it's an interesting subject, and Marcel covered a lot of things there that I would have covered. But one of the key things I think we've done some research on, that the average association is only engaged with about 20% of their members. There's this area that tends to be out there, and they would engage, then probably go to an event or something like that. And in Australia, that's, I believe, is a big challenge. So one of the strategies is about the personal involvement. And when we talk about membership, I think we need to consider that there are levels of members. There are personal members and there may be business members, and all of them have different needs. But in the end of the day, they're all about people. And what we've done with some organisations and their committees, of course, Australia is quite big in respect to a national body. And what they often do is encourage their committees to engage on a personal level. And that tends to be very successful, because it allows people to feel that there's a sense of belonging. And that's what happens. So when someone joins, they get all the electronic stuff and they get all the access to the magazines. The events are very critical because they tend to be the point of engagement, but that is sort of behind at the moment. So a lot of the organisations, a lot of the associations in Australia are relying on their volunteer groups or committees to be the arm of engagement, which is, we think, is the way to go. Thanks, Eric.
Jada, anything to add to that?
I was nodding because we are doing exactly what Marcel was talking about. So instead of having that hierarchy where you have a board and assigned directors, we're trying to get members to step into the role of leading projects. So in ICF, what we have is this thing called communities of practice, where we get members who are interested in a specific topic, for example, health coaching. Lead that topic yourself and build your own small community. That's something that we are doing, and it's allowed members to take up ownership of their role in the community. So that definitely helps with members' engagement. The other thing that we have also is that instead of not just the small communities that we are creating, members also then get the opportunity to lead new projects if they think that's something they want. So we've got members who say, I like to just help out in the events. So that's where they initiate their own stepping into the role and contributing back to the community. I think that's very important because it helps the whole chapter build upon two things. One is creating ownership and a sense of belonging, right? Because the more involved they are, the more they want to, they own the role. That's one. Two, I think it also helped us in terms of session building for the board itself, because we need to then start spotting out members who can lead the chapter to the next level. So thanks, Marcel, for bringing that up, because that's definitely something that we are experimenting with.
Marcel?
Yeah, thanks, Jade. I just wanted to sort of ask or make a comment about that. So what happens is within most associations, there is something called content neglect. So we produce all these things and we do webinars like today, etc. But then we don't use these in the future. And what we've seen, particularly over the last 15 years that technology has enabled this, a lot of the information, that the learnings that we have just never been kept or not utilized. So the message here is that make sure we're living a digital age. Every outcome of a project group, utilize it, put it in a format that it's educational and that it can be shared. And that is really the future value of any community that we're getting.
Absolutely. So Harth, you mentioned earlier that you guys sort of went through a little bit of a digital transformation, last year. How do you think that is setting you up for, obviously an even better 2021, and where do you see the opportunities still moving forward?
So before answering Eric, I'll take up from where Nick had left. That a personal connect with members is very important in today's DNA. And FADA has approximately 2,600 live members under its belt, and we have already started speaking to at least 10 members per day, so that we speak to the entire membership of ours within a span of this year. This. So, and it's not possible for one single person to do this. So our entire top level of national office bearers are doing these calls through telephone and through Zoom meetings on a daily basis. And we started this on 1st of Jan. And our aim is to speak at least once to the entire membership, which we have. So that's one thing which we are doing currently. Second, what Marcel said, that we do a lot of webinars, but then how do we use it post the webinar is done with? So we as a process at FADA, we document it, we bring out key pointers, and because we have our monthly magazine and a daily news wire, which we release to all our members and to the entire auto industry, we flash it there so that anyone who missed an opportunity of not being part of the webinar can know what was actually discussed and what are the key takeaways, which one should know about, and how are the things shaping up in the industry. So these are the two things which we are doing, and I think it may be taken up as one of the best practices for any association to follow, so that there is a good human connect in this digital world of today. Apart from this, as I said, we have started our academy, and that's where we are bringing new learning courses for our budding dealer managers and dealer principals who want to take part or who want to get into the auto dealership businesses. And because it's a virtual world right now, we get a lot of international speakers to India, obviously virtually. It doesn't cost us much. And we get the best of worlds and best of trainers for our members, so that they can get educated at world standard quality levels. So that's what we are doing right now, and that's keeping us busy in terms of our physical in terms of our connect with our members, and making them upgrading to the newer skill sets which is required in today's world, in today's scenario, where they have to do business in a very different manner what used to be done by their grandparents or their parents, because things are changing, things are evolving very fast, and you have to be on your toes to grasp all these changes, so that you are not dead within the next 3 or 4 years if you have to stay long.
That's right. And actually, so we have a question which sort of touches a little bit on this. It really, again, everybody here has a role in this community, and everybody has different ideas. Inside the platform, the Glue Up platform that everybody's participating in is the ability to exchange business cards. So I would encourage everybody here, feel free to exchange business cards. Again, in the online forum, the reason why we designed this platform was to be able to bring some of those connections from what was only happening in the offline world to the online world, so that people can connect afterwards. So obviously in the chat, but even more so in the digital business card that's available both with the mobile app that we have, as well as, of course, on the web version. So again, encourage anybody that wants to connect with other folks. We got a lot of great people attending today. So just want to mention that and encourage everybody to participate there. Another question, and this goes to, we'll throw it out to anybody, is how can you get more people to join online events? Again, age disparity sometimes obviously is a hindrance. Some people are less familiar with the tools, tech savvy versus non-tech savvy. How are you all seeing success with this? And I see Sahar has raised his hand, so go ahead.
Yeah. So this is my personal experience in India. People don't want to get into each and every webinar which is happening. So we need to be very focused, and we need to do a lot of branding activities of why one needs to attend this webinar. What are the learnings? What are the key takeaways? If these are known beforehand in terms of bullets, in terms of social media posts, in terms of emailers, in terms of WhatsApp messaging, it attracts a lot of members and a lot of people to attend a webinar. They can immediately connect as to what if they attend this webinar, what are the learnings or what are the best practices they can learn. So if this is known to the members beforehand, it makes them curious, and it also makes them attend the webinar. Because initially, when the entire webinar saga started, we saw a very thin crowd coming up. But then we thought what we can do to make the crowd thicker. And this is what we adopted. And I have seen 10-fold increase in webinar participations at FADA because of the key topics or the key pointers. If we disseminate them beforehand, it helps members to connect, and they can imagine that what is there in it for them to attend this webinar. That's one thing which I can think of.
Yeah. Nick, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with Sash. When you're marketing a webinar, it has to be very clear what the agenda is, and stick to that and stick to time. Because we usually don't go more than 3/4 of an hour, although an hour is a good one for us. But one of the things I think I want to add to that is we do record the webinars, and what we've done with our editing people is that we take the key elements out of that recording, as Marcel talked about, having the intellectual knowledge to take forward, and we use that as upcoming newsletters. You unfortunately you missed that webinar, but here are the key takeouts of that, and that encourages the members to think, well, what I missed out on that. So that's just a tip from my end, so it might help.
Anybody else want to add to this best practices?
Yeah, I think Nick has hits the nail on the head. So it has to do with bite size. So a lot of things have changed in the way we look at it. The average video clip we're watching on TikTok is 25 seconds. So our attention span is getting smaller, as our learning and development director says. Currently, I think a goldfish has an 8-second attention span. The current human being online has 7 seconds. So take a message out of that, in the sense that how do we want to present it? So how do we get people interested for an hour or several hours online? Has to do with how it's presented, and a lot has to do with the gamification. What we shouldn't be trying to do is to try to transform a live event to an online platform and expect it's going to operate the same way. A lot of us have tried that. I still don't understand the concept of online exhibitions. There are other products, there are other ways out of it to achieve better results than that.
Just one last thing to add here. I think, yes, marketing is important. Bite-sized information is important. It's all part of bringing a awareness of the event to the audience, right? Now, I think what's also important also is the experience of the online event itself. Members don't just expect to come into a webinar, learn something and leave anymore. You need to give them something more, right? So for example, what we did was we created like mindfulness session pre-event to get the member into the right framework. Then after the event, we get them into like speed dating, networking, so they get to meet new people. So we're trying to recreate experiences here. And when you have new experiences where people enjoy, that's one. And on top of enjoyment, they get to meet people, new people, and reconnect with people that they are familiar with. It creates that sense of, hey, this is something I am enjoying. I'll definitely come back for the next one. So the experience itself, I think, is also a very crucial element.
Absolutely. And we're going to go to a quick video to show a little bit of something that talks directly to what you just. So that is something we designed, thinking in mind about new experiences, new ways to do things, new ways of bringing people together. And certainly as we look into 2021 here, we're going to leave it with one final note for everybody here to give one prediction for 2021, and we will close out our session for today. So Harth, you want to start us off with one bold prediction for 2021?
So from auto industry point of specifically, Indian auto sector has seen one of the best V-shaped recoveries in India, and 2021 will be an year of stability and reliability, if I have to speak in terms of association level engagements. I think the worst is now behind us with the vaccination program rolling out in the country, and good things will start coming soon.
Jada?
I wouldn't dare to say I can predict the year, but I anticipate that this is the year of innovation. Continuous innovating on our product, our services, our value to our members.
Great. Nick?
Well, I'm going to be cheeky here and give two predictions. One is there's going to be a certain amount of rationalisation of associations because some of them won't survive, and there'll be a lot of merger going on. My second prediction is we're going to beat India at the cricket Sarash. So we're playing cricket for you people that don't know what that is. The prediction is we're going to win the test. So thank you very much.
That is bold, huh?
That's a very good prediction. I think, well, first of all, I am going to make a plug. As a association management consulting firm, we have a consulting package for transformations. It's a 12-week run through. It's look at it at www.fastbymci.com. So have a look. My predictions is it's really about transformation, but at the end of the day, a lot of us are still in survival mode. So it's more transformation and realization of what is the core of what we have and how we should continue.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. We are exactly on time, 1 hour on the dot. Thank you, Nick, Saharth, Jada, and Marcel. We appreciate everybody's time and certainly everybody who participated today. We look forward to being in touch and look forward to seeing you all hopefully next month at our next Glue Up webinar. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, and namaste from India.
Thank you very much.
Yes.